Hey there, this is kind of like a follow-up for Jose, his video on Rivian Tracker. He did a 2-year experience follow-up for his Rivian R1T, and I think he was really spot on a lot of things, and I agreed with it. And because I'm so conflicted about the ownership of the R1T in the sense of my use case and what do I think about it, I have a feeling a lot of people are also, you know, I want to say confused, but looking for some opinions and some guidance when it comes down to this and the Rivian R1Ts and electric vehicles in general. So if you haven't watched Jose's video on Rivian Tracker, watch it. I think it's actually, as a fellow owner, I think it's pretty spot on. I'm going to throw some of my input in as well. And if there's any value to you with this video, then great. Doesn't take me very much time while I'm driving since I drive an hour anyways. So again, go watch the video from Rivian Tracker, his 1-year perception of ownership. And so I think a lot of it does come down to use case. And so again, if you haven't seen the other 2 videos I made, I'm an occasional off-roader. I did get the Jeep Bug. I did have a Jeep Gladiator and on 37s, and the thing was absolutely unstoppable. And then I also had a Tesla Model Y. And so the question was, does this combine the best of both worlds? So here's my use case. And I think depending what you're doing with it, for example, there's a YouTube video on a farmer that was using a Tesla Cybertruck as a work vehicle and using the high power back for welding. His use case is different than mine for sure. And there's other people that their use case has no significant off-roading. And so here's my use case. So one, I use my car about 90% of the time driving on roads, on highways. I do a commute about an hour and change each way. So it's a lengthy commute. I do like having a pickup so that I can throw stuff in the back. Unlike Jose, who's very meticulous with his cars, I'm not. My cars are just a tool in most cases. I do like mountain biking, and I do like saving a little bit of money and camping right by the trails. So if you know Florida, you have Alafaya and you have Santos Campground. You can literally set up in a camp spot with power and ride your bike onto the trails and come back. And so you'll see a lot of the theme regarding my use case is that Florida is really, really hot. And so the idea of having an electric vehicle that has air conditioning that you can jump into and cool off between rides is awesome. I haven't done a lot of overnights. We did a Blueberry Festival with the Jeep. We did a bunch of Jeep events. And so having an onboard giant battery is really useful for running fans, running an ice maker, running a fridge, because again, it's really hot in Florida. And so for me, the whole cold weather battery, extra battery utilization and less range is not a thing for me because it's very rarely cold down here. So having said all that, I do like the vehicles to look nice. So that's obviously one of my use cases. And the big thing about the Model Y, the day-to-day, is the fact that every day you wake up with 300-mile range. And so that, if I had to sum up my use case, I do travel with the kids a lot, in which case this car doesn't meet that. I'll get into that. But let's go through some of the questions that was asked from Jose, and I'm going to answer it this time in my perspective. So do I have any regrets? I only have one regret, really, with the truck. And that's the fact that I bought it in January for $70,000. I thought that was a great deal. Launch edition, armor plating on the bottom, 21-inch rims, tonneau cover, power. And now, 6 months later, you can get it for $58,000. So the only regret was not waiting 6 months. It's interesting when you hear the question, do you regret your decision? Because I think what the real question is if you went back, would you buy another car? Or would you not sell the car you had? And again, I had the Jeep Gladiator, and a year ago or 2 years ago, my commute went from 20 minutes to an hour each way. And so the Gladiator's use case became more challenging because although the truck rides really well on 37s, the autopilot didn't exist. And as you can tell right now, Driver Plus works really well. Not as well as Tesla, but it hits 95% of my use case. So the Gladiator didn't. And the Gladiator's 14 miles per gallon was doing me no favors. It would be like $37 to $42 round trip to go to work per day. So that obviously, and so having said that, knowing I had to get out of the Gladiator something more efficient, and knowing the Tesla was phenomenal, and I needed a third car because my son was coming up and needing to drive, could I have gotten a different vehicle that fit all my use case? No. I think this is the best vehicle for me for this use case. I would love a more rugged vehicle because this is a really gorgeous vehicle. This is like a Land Rover, in my opinion. And so would I take it to Ocala and get it completely pinstriped? I don't have the heart to do that. So I had to give a concession that I probably won't do that type of off-roading anymore with this vehicle because it's such a nice vehicle. If I would have gotten, let's say, a 4Runner that had some sort of lane keep assist, I don't think the autopilot lane keep assist would have been good enough. Could I have gotten an F-150 Lightning? Yeah, but that's a much larger vehicle, so kiss all off-roading goodbye. And for the price, the Rivian used was almost the same price, got better range, I think a much better interior. So again, could there have been, the only thing that could have been better, I think in my use case is the R1S, ironically, because I don't use the bed as often. And again, for sleeping in the truck while mountain biking and camping, not having a rooftop tent and sleeping inside the vehicle could have been a perk. But the truth is, back then, the premium was about 14 grand, 70 to 84. And even now it's 58 to 60 to 72, 70 for an R1S. And at that point, paying 1/5, 1/6 more wasn't, to me, the value I was looking for. So one slight regret, and I'm conflicted with, is should I have looked around a little harder looking for 20-inch rims. Jose's a big advocate of the 20 inches upgradability. But then I would have given up range, which hasn't been an issue, but psychologically, considering I don't off-road all that much, maybe it wasn't worth it. So that would be the only conflicts I have. There was a question in there for Jose, Rivian versus Tesla, and he said that he didn't feel comfortable answering that question. And I can see his point on why he didn't answer that question. But the truth is, I get it. Tesla is the best EV maker, and Rivian is the new kid on the block. And a lot of people will look at it. And although I don't think it's a use case, you can't take a Model Y and off-road, I think now with the Cybertruck out, I think that question becomes even more valid. Cybertruck versus Rivian. I was super excited. I'm a Tesla fanboy. I like the way Elon does things, both as a CEO, as a person, and then on the flip side, the ride quality of the Teslas are leading edge, the technology, everything. Gladiator just passed. But I think he missed the ball with the Cybertruck. And so let's talk about my opinion. So I have a Model Y also. We went from Melbourne to Tampa and back. On the way to, we needed two vehicles because we didn't have the third row seats anymore. So as we were driving, we made it about 170 miles, 140 miles, something like that. I don't remember the exact number. What I do remember is he stopped to charge at a Wawa at 26%. And I was at 65% range left. So from what I hear from the Cybertruck, the range is really not great. Now, it's unfair to compare necessarily because that one automatically comes with all-terrain and these are kind of highway tires. But definitely the range is like, do I really want that? Especially if you're really off-roading or going to a festival where you do trails and camp overnight. They don't have chargers there. So that's a little bit of an issue. I will tell you the Tesla air conditioner is better. Although, like Jose said, given an extra 5 minutes, 10 minutes in the Rivian, you can freeze yourself out of both cars. But the Tesla cools off much faster. Maybe it is a little bit smaller, but it is something to note for the heat. The Tesla seats are much more comfortable. I mentioned in the other video, my kids in the back and my wife in the passenger will always pick the Tesla Model Y for long distance travel. The Tesla has a shorter range for sure, and so that, but it hasn't been an issue. I'll talk about that later. The Tesla has a little more features, a little more remote control, a little more gimmicks, and then comparing directly with the Cybertruck, my opinion, the benefits of the Cybertruck first is one, it has lockers, and again, I think I would off-road more with the Cybertruck because it can't be scratched, it can't be pinstriped. So if I was a lot more for the off-roading, I think the Cybertruck might be a better truck. But my use case right now hasn't shown that I'm going to be doing that much off-roading. So the lockers are better. The onboard power, again, the Rivian's measly 1,500 watts serves my purpose, which is running a fridge, inductive cooktop for camping and stuff. But you know, powering a house, powering something larger. If I wanted, the other day, for example, we needed to run a shop vac because one of the air conditioners at one of our locations had buildup. I can't run a larger shop vac because a surge will trip out the Rivian. If I had a Cybertruck, I could have just driven the Cybertruck to the back of the office, plugged it in, and shop vaced it. So there's one use case where the Cybertruck would have been better. And obviously, Tesla's not going anywhere. And there's a lot of concern, which I get. I'm not that worried, but there is concern that Rivian might go the route of Fisker or be assimilated into some other brand because their financials aren't the strongest. That's the only three positives I saw in the Cybertruck. The steer-by-wire is fantastic, absolutely, but that's about it. Cons, in my opinion, Tesla Cyber versus Rivian. Neither one. The one, you'll see me talk about this later, neither one has access to the air conditioner while staying in the vehicle. I wouldn't sleep on one of these chairs if possible, but the range is about 50 miles less. The Cybertruck right now is more expensive. It doesn't have any autopilot, which I think is just mind-boggling. The longer wheelbase makes it worse breakover angles. So if you're off-roading, that thing is wider than the Rivian. It is longer wheelbase than the Rivian and should be more difficult to off-road, especially in Florida where there's a lot of sand and hills. I know it sounds weird, but there are a lot of hills, sharp hills, not like mountains, but there's a lot of switches where you'll have a steep climb, a 35-degree climb, and then immediately go back down, and that will cause breakover angle issues here. Whereas I know in Moab or other places, there's just really big hills up and down and not so many breakovers. The con against the Tesla Cybertruck, build quality. Tesla, my Model Y, creaking, cracking. Like Jose said about the Rivian R1T, I don't have any cracking now. I put in little D-rings all around the bed so I could strap things down. And the Jeep was so loud you didn't hear it, but this car is so quiet I can actually hear the D-rings clinking sometimes. So I might remove those and go for the EV Sport line releasable ones so I can remove all the clips and not have any of them dangling. But other than that, the Rivian build quality is leagues better than Tesla. And then Tesla only has a 50,000 mile warranty. I do like, when you think about having air suspension and all these new dynamic parts, I do like Rivian 60,000 mile on their quad. So to me, knowing what I know about the Cybertruck, even though like Jose did the Cybertruck drive and I haven't, I don't care how good the steer-by-wire is, it's not enough for me to give up all the others given my use case. So, but I think the better question is not so much the Rivian versus Cybertruck as much as a possibility of saying Rivian R1T versus Silverado EV Trail Boss that's coming out. And I say that because in my use case, if the Trail Boss has a clearance and gets to keep the air suspension, let's say it gets a 2-inch lift from the stance it has right now, and then gets the air suspension of another 2 inches, and let's say it gets 3 to 4 inches, and it has underbody armor, that midgate, the ability to drop the back wall, and turn it into a 10-foot bed. But more importantly, you can sleep up here, have plenty of room to get up, put your iPad on the back window, for example, and then still have the last 3 feet of the bed with, let's say, a fridge, camp stove, and all that stuff. That's, again, pretty compelling, because now I don't have to carry a rooftop tent. I can sleep in the truck with the AC on, sleep super comfortable, and then if I ever want to do a stealth camp, let's say I want to go to Georgia to ride and I don't want to pay for a hotel, I can park somewhere, and if I have the right tints and then the right shade in the front, I can just sleep in the vehicle. So that, to me, is compelling. Side note, some of the preliminary reviews say that the Silverado EV only has a 1 hour camp mode. So that obviously would have to be fixed. But the 440 mile range on the surface is great. But think about it. You get the truck, and if you do want to off-road it, you lift it, you put even bigger tires on it, you're going to lose range and lose range. Let's say you want to put a bed cover on it when they come out to create more of a overlanding vehicle with still the comfort and the Blue Cruise, not the Blue Cruise, the Super Cruise. Okay, you go from 440 to 350. You lose, 33% of your range, or 30% of your range. You still have a really good range and still have all the benefits of the really large tires. I see a lot of these videos on TFL and they're taking the truck stock, which they should. But the truth is, a vehicle with no lockers, with really good tires, can outperform a car with lockers who has street tires in the snow, mud, sand. So I think the problem with EVs is the fact that the more you make it off-road ready, the bigger tires, the wider tires, mud terrains, you start forfeiting so much range that it becomes too much of a sacrifice. And so you start compromising and trying to drive the car the way it is, and using traction boards or using tire claws to try to offset it, which makes things more complicated. Some other pros that I think the EV Silverado Trail Boss would have, and obviously it's not out yet, a lot more room in the back seats, which for me, my use case for my kids would be better. Android Auto, I do like Android Auto. I do like being able to use Onyx On-Road or Gaia and having it so I don't have to have an iPad. And then full lockers is allegedly coming, even if it has the G80 locker in the back. If it has lockers in the front, you solve a lot of the problems Rivian has because of that stall torque trying to get over a rock. If you watch some of the other videos, you'll see that you kind of have to bump or kind of roll into obstacles. Otherwise, if you come from a dead stop over an object, the Rivian's ability to go from 0 to 1 RPMs, it struggles. And the G80 locker might actually be a good thing, because if one tire splits, giving the motor a little bit of momentum, and then the locker kicks on, that momentum keeps it above 0 RPMs and gives it the ability to get over those rocks. Whereas in the Rivian, since each motor has its own tire, it doesn't have that ability to manage that stall torque. Now, obviously, some cons of the Silverado EV, in my use case, the Trail Boss, at least comparing it to the Silverado right now, 223 length on the Silverado versus 217. So Florida trails are pretty tight. And then 79 versus 84 inches width. And so again, wider car, more pinstriping. How do I do that? Do I get PPF, self-healing PPF to manage it? Maybe. But right now, I think if you're someone looking at the Rivian and you have any desire to match my use case, then you really want to kind of wonder if the Silverado EV is worth waiting for and seeing where it's at. And honestly, since I think that's still about a year or two away, and I never buy anything new because it's a lot more expensive, then I would still say get the Rivian R1T, be with it for 2 to 3 years, enjoy it, get all the benefits from it. And then when the Chevy Silverado EV Trail Boss comes down in price, then you jump in and you're probably at a better use case. So that's kind of like the Tesla versus Rivian or other EV versus Rivian type of conversation, in my opinion. Other questions he was asked I thought were good. Range anxiety. I agree with him 100%. Range anxiety does not exist. traveling with the family, our bladders cannot last that long. So even on the Tesla that only gets about 190 miles range at 80 miles an hour, we never have a problem. Someone has to stop. And so there's so many chargers now, especially Tesla, that I just navigate to the nearest Tesla charger on my route that has a bathroom. No matter where I'm at, plug in because I'm there. Go in, use the restroom, grab something to eat, 10, 12, 15 minutes, I'm back. I've never had to stop. Actually, only once out of 50,000 miles across both vehicles have I had to stop because of charging without needing to. And that's because my kids really wanted to eat Longhorn, and eating at Longhorn messed up that stop cycle, and we had to stop for 8 minutes or 10 minutes to get what we needed to complete our trip. So honestly, I get it. You know, range anxiety is a thing, but Rivian have access, and that's actually a point. The Chevy Silverado does not have access to the Tesla network. So right now, it's not even a starter. Even if it came out right now, I wouldn't get it because of that one reason. Rivian having access to the Tesla network is a huge advantage. And for that reason, range anxiety is not a thing. So it is nice having a larger pack versus the Tesla. If we do the Georgia Traverse, which is something that's on my bucket list, it will be nice to have that extra range. But if you've watched a lot of videos, off-roading doesn't take much power. There's people that went in and blew a quarter tank in their Tacoma, and the other person only lost 7% on their battery because electric cars don't idle. You just sit there, maybe the AC, and that's about it. So yeah, definitely not an issue for me at all. Other questions he had that I thought were interesting: dependability. The same two little tiny inconveniences: my steering column not heating up, again, Florida, so it's not, I haven't rushed to fix it, and the gate for the charger rubbing. That's it. Same only issues I have. I now have about 11,000 miles in 6 months on the vehicle, so I do drive it quite a bit. And honestly, my Tesla definitely gave me more problems than this. So dependability so far, like Jose said, 0 issues. Some specifics about my use case that you might ask: there's no 12 volt in the bed. And so I have to run my fridge off of 110. So I have to run the inverter all day, every day. Having said that, I'm seeing about a 5% impact, which for my use case, coming home every night, not a big deal. If I was overlanding and 5% extra all day to basically keep the outlets on the whole time, plug in my any devices like a fan, I'm going to turn it on anyways. And if I'm sleeping, I'm going to use a heated blanket if it's cold. If it's not, I'm going to use my Wave or maybe even the internal AC if there was an option. So having said that, something to know about a 5%. And I guess one negative about the automatic retracting tonneau cover is you lose about that much room on the top because the tonneau sits inside. And so it doesn't sound like much, but that leaves you at 16.5 inches. And both of my overland fridges, I have a drawer fridge, which is it doesn't have enough room, but I have a nice, the one that makes ice, the Glacier. And I have it obviously because, again, Florida is so dang hot that being able to go for a ride, jump into turn it on, get ice, make a drink, and not have to worry about getting ice from coolers is really nice. And it has separate fridge and freezer, but I can't put it in the bed of the truck. So, you know, if you don't want to spend the money on the electric tonneau, there are nice advantages to it, absolutely, but it's more failure points. That might be something that I would omit and just get a rolling tonneau or a backflip. That way you have the extra room underneath it for a fridge. So those are just two things that I thought, it's a question you might not ask, but it has some value if I were watching the video. They asked him, what would be things that you want Rivian to do or features to add? That's always a really cool question. So most of my use case, if you think about it, I would have my other fridge in the back, the small one. And let's say I was riding. I would come up. I have to walk, and the bike would be stored on the rack on the right side. My helmet would be in the right tonneau cover. So I would have to walk all the way around and hit the tailgate, the tonneau cover open and the tailgate drop, to then walk back to the back right of the tailgate to open the fridge. So I really wish from the app, you can turn on the outlets and open the tonneau cover. Right now you can close the tonneau cover, but you can't open the tonneau cover, which I'm not really sure why. Closing is probably even more dangerous, that you might jab it while it closes. Why would they not allow you to open it? So I would love to be able to walk up to it. Let's say I'm riding, I hop off my bike, turn on my phone, and let's say turn on the AC, open the tonneau, drop the tailgate, and that lets me go and reach for the fridge right there without having to walk around. At the same time, the outlets are on the right side. So let's say I walk up and I want to plug in a fan real quick. I would have to walk all the way around to the left side, open the tonneau to come to the right side to plug it in. Again, let me have access to opening the tonneau and turning on the outlets from the phone. So that way I can just open the tonneau, turn on the outlets, and just reach over and plug in the fan. Again, it might be just my use case. Let us open the windows from the app. So if I choose to store the larger fridge inside the vehicle, and let's say I do get the gear slide and I cook on the right side, I might have on my back passenger seat the fridge, and my front passenger seat might be all the cooking products. That way it's easy to reach and I don't use the tailgate. But again, I have to open the door, reach in, open the windows, and close the door, which doesn't sound like a big deal, and it really isn't. But again, it would be nice to be able to walk up and, in my use case, vehicle's fully secure. I walk up, open the passenger front and back windows, pop open the gear tunnels, all from the app, open the tonneau, drop the tailgate, turn on the outlets. Now I can pull out the gear slide, reach in and grab, let's say, a beer, whatever, or ice, reach into the front and grab hot dog buns or whatever, plug in the induction cooktop, reach over, since the tonneau cover, plug in the inductive cooktop into the outlet, all without having to leave the right side of the vehicle. So the Wi-Fi, again, my use case, I have the Glacier, I have the Delta Wave. They need internet if you want to do a lot of the functionality away from it. So let's say I'm away riding and I'm on my way back, and I'm like, I'm 15 minutes away, and I'm like, let me start the ice maker. So I have a fresh batch of ice. Let me check on the temperature of the fridge. The ports on the Wi-Fi are not open. And so with that being said, even certain games, I was playing one game while waiting for my son for the orthodontist, and you can't play it because the ports are not open. And so you can't access the Glacier. You can't access any, let's say you have a habitat and you want to put a Bluetooth sensor on your tent to see the temperature, or you want to run any cameras just to keep, your campsite under observation. And I know obviously the gear guard works, but the gear guard takes a lot of power. So none of that works. So I would hope and want, even if that meant creating a subscription model for internet access, open the ports on the Wi-Fi so that way if you have any devices in the vehicle, like a camera, like the Glacier, you can remotely access and turn on the ice maker, change the temps, and do all your things. Not a super important thing, not a deal breaker, because I'm probably going to use Starlink anyways, but it would be nice. One other ask that might be my use case is some sort of pass-through ability in the vehicle. So if you have a Starlink, you got to run a cable outside. I know that on one side you want to keep the water forwarding depth, and you want to keep the vehicle relatively sealed. So is there a way to put a grommet or something on the top where you can pass and fish cable, so you can wire in your Starlink, or you can plug in a fan that's up, plug in things to the vehicle without having to use. I unfortunately damaged one of my water lines for my little Dometic pump, because the only way to get it out was to squeeze it in between the tonneau covers gasket and the back tailgate. And even that was enough to tear the little rubber hose. So it would be nice. On the Gladiator, there are, right behind the passenger seat, there's pass-throughs into the bed. On the front, there's grommets passings into the cab. And then obviously, in general, the Gladiator has lots of gaps everywhere to run things through the bed. So in this vehicle, the bed, I don't think there's a way to get any cables through the bed out. If there is, definitely hit me up and let me know. One feature I would love to copy from the Tesla is the auto garage open. It's so nice just pulling up and the garage opens for you. Sounds trivial. We already have the feature. We already have the GPS location. Just give us the option to turn that feature on to automatically do it. And from what I hear, Rivian doesn't want you putting skid plates, the steps, the rock sliders on the vehicle. And I can't tell if it's voiding warranties or they're giving you a hard time, but Rivian, come out with factory running boards or rock sliders. The car needs it, obviously. If you do any off-roading, you know, and I don't want to be buying the plastic pieces trim when you tear it off. So I probably will get it. I know Jose's gotten, I think a lot of people have gotten EV Sport Lines rock sliders. But if you can, you know, Rivian, consider it. Consider giving it to us. All that being said, and hopefully this video has been useful to you and my use case versus your use case, but would I buy it again? I think that's ultimately the question I'm going to always end these videos with. The answer is absolutely. There is nothing else I would rather have. The Cybertruck's lack of paint and the ability to take it would give me significantly more desire to take it out to Ocala, to CMA, because I'm not worried about pinstriping. But right now, all the other negatives, especially no autopilot, makes it a non-starter. Tesla, Elon, I doubt you're watching this, but you got to move. You got to accelerate the launch of that autopilot. And then obviously, I'm not paying for the Cyber Beast. I'm not going to pay the money for the Foundation series. So, will that change my opinion in a year when the Cybertruck comes down in price and the autopilot is fully engaged? Maybe. It's still a really big truck to off-road, and so that's still a slight issue. A newer version to the question is, if I were trying to buy the vehicle now, would I go for the dual motor at a much more affordable price point, or a used quad with, let's say, 10 to 20,000 miles? And honestly, I'll agree with Jose. Again, I agree with almost everything he said. I think it's spot on. So definitely go watch this video again. He's investing a lot in the community, so I want to drive as much traffic to him. The quad is faster. There's no lockers on the 2 version. It still has a differential with brake assisting, where it will direct power by locking a tire. That I heard helps a little bit with the stall torque, but unless you're willing to spend $100,000 plus to get the quad, which is not even out yet, what are you really getting? And so I think the deal you can get on a quad right now in the open market, the fun of having that speed, that takeoff to show people, and the fact you can get the 20-inch with the armor plating on a used vehicle at a huge discount. Even if right now I didn't have this, let's say I had my Model Y and decided to switch, I would still buy a used quad. Now R1S, R1T is the real question, but I would definitely go used 2023, either launch or quad version, get the better warranty. Because I think the warranty dropped to $50,000 if you don't get the quad, and you can't even order the quad right now. The range is obviously nicer on the dual motor, but again, not once has my Tesla at 200 miles given me any stress. And so imagine right now 300 and change with the 21-inch rims. It doesn't give me any anxiety. So I would still stay with getting a used one if you can get one. They're a great deal right now. I saw a few for 57, 58,000 with the 21-inch rims, no automatic tonneau, but quads. And to me, that's a great value. So you'll pay it off. The gap between that and, let's say, a Tacoma, 20 grand, over the course of 3 to 4 years with gas savings, you can't touch it. So hopefully this helps. If I ever get a chance to drive a Cybertruck, I'll probably do something like Jose did on Impressions. But yeah, I love my truck. There's nothing else I would trade it in for, barring even any amount of money. I still wouldn't go for the Cyber Beast. So hopefully this helps. I plan to do some off-roading the Georgia Traverse, but it's probably not going to be until November, December. hopefully some of the Rivian guys go also, because I forgot to mention this before. One huge negative about both the Rivian and the Cybertruck: no winch. And so I've only had to winch myself once on my Gladiator because of high centered, and that's the issue with pickup trucks. But basically, I won't go off-roading without a couple of buddies because I will probably get stuck and I don't have a way to get myself out. And there are tire grabbers, which are the chalks you almost strap onto your tire. There's been a lot of guys that had great success with that. There's Max Tracks, which I've had mixed results. I've tried using Max Tracks, and at the end of the day, I just winch out, and it's 1,000 times less dirty, easier. I just tie it to a tree, snatch block or another vehicle, and boom, I'm out. And like I said, it only happened once I've ever needed it. I've winched people out. I winched cars out of ditches that people can't drive in Florida, but there's no winch at all for the Rivian. There's no winch and so to me, that's still a huge negative. That gives me some anxiety why I would never go out by myself, because I want to have fun. I want to hit some mud holes, but if I do and I get stuck, I'm totally screwed. So if the Trail Boss comes with a bumper, EV Silverado Trail Boss comes with a bumper that can add on a winch, or someone comes up with that winch ability, it's going to be a seriously compelling option. Hopefully Rivian and Tesla come up with their own alternatives. There was a picture somewhere in the forums of a blue R1T that had an integrated winch in the lower part of the bumper. That would be awesome. And I would probably pay $3,000, $3,000 to $4,000 to give me a metal front bumper that keeps all the autopilot with an integrated winch point. That would be compelling for me, because I do want to explore a little bit, but who am I going to call? Like a tow company to come get me and, end up on Rivian's YouTube site with a Jeep pulling me out of a ditch. It's that kind of would stress me out. So I do want to do the Georgia Traverse, and when I do, I'll kind of really test a lot of the camping abilities, range, and all that stuff, off-roading, and how hard is it. And I'll be able to report back on that. Jose, if you see this, if you want to set something up for November, December, let me know. That'd be kind of fun to get a few guys out to go there. So I appreciate your time. Hopefully this has some value to you. I know it's been a long video. And then if you have any questions on my experience, just ask it in the bottom. Like Jose, I love taking what we learn on these things. I know this is a big purchase, and so I want to be as helpful as possible. I don't want anyone getting a Rivian and then saying, oh, this didn't work, that didn't work. Why did I make the mistake? Why did I sell my Gladiator or my Tacoma? What a mistake. Having said all that, Justin McBride, if you have time, he's selling his Gladiator to get an EV and has a little bit of remorse buying his Gladiator. He's a YouTuber. Look him up. Justin McBride. Look up his recent video as of, I think it was like 3 days ago. So maybe July 31st. He's selling his Gladiator to get a Rivian. So even he had some regret. So hopefully his videos help prevent any of that for you. Anyways, thanks a lot. And then again, support Rivian Tracker. Jose, go to his site, support him, use his links. I think he makes great content. I think he does a lot to advocate for the fan base with the Rivian engineers. All right. Appreciate you guys. Talk to you soon.